I want to broaden out our discussion here with our next guest on the COVID front when it comes to what more is being done there, as well as an opening potentially here in terms of summertime travel for Americans who have been vaccinated. And joining us now for more on all of that is Dr. Annalee Baker, an emergency medicine physician, joins us right now. Dr. Baker, good to be chatting with you on all of this. And I'm sure a lot of Americans obviously excited at the prospect of getting to travel again. But on the front of updating guidelines, it was kind of interesting to see former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb criticizing, I guess you could say, the CDC for being slow to update their mask requirements. And we'll see what President Biden says. But where do you put us there in maybe giving more updates to Americans who have been vaccinated at this point in time?
Hi, Zach. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I would have to agree. I think the time is now. We're definitely ready for those updates. We're approaching 50% of US adults that are vaccinated at this point. So I think we're moving in the right direction. We've got 3 million shots going out per day. It's time for those guidelines to come out. The CDC has been a lot more quick with these kinds of things this year than what we saw last year. So I do expect that they're going to be getting these out pretty quickly, but they also are being, they're treading lightly. They don't want to make any mistakes because we saw what that did last year when there were a few missteps by the CDC and other organizations, and that really hurt us with vaccine confidence, vaccine hesitancy, and all of that. So I think they just want to make sure they get this right. But they have released some guidelines already about summer camp and certain things, certain sort of specific scenarios. And, the more the better, because Americans want to do what they're told, but they also want to get back to regular life.
Hi, Dr. Baker. This is Emily. I wanted to ask about a New York Times story that came out over the weekend saying that almost 8% of Americans who received a Pfizer or Moderna vaccine skipped their second dose. And I'm wondering if you see that proportion going up in the near term and if that could potentially present a hurdle to herd immunity.
I'm not sure that it will. There are a number of experts in the vaccine community. Dr. Ulsterholm comes to mind, people who have advocated, in fact, going with one dose for as many people as possible and then getting to that second dose later, whenever that time may be, a few months. We know that you get to about 80% immunity just with that first dose. Obviously, we'd rather see it get up into those high 90s, like what we see with the 2-dose mRNA vaccine regimen. But any shot is better than no shot. So I personally am not that concerned about that. We would like to get a campaign going to get people back in for their second shot. But right now, we're facing, both as a country and as a world, as what you mentioned about what's going on in India, something much more dire. And that is that many people have not received even a single shot at all. And that should be our number one priority, is getting at least one shot in everyone.
Interestingly, today we're seeing a few boosts in terms of the travel companies we watch, and I'm not sure how much that might be attached to the update we got from the head of the EU Commission, the European Commission, talking about how under certain conditions you could see Americans start to begin non-essential travel there after being locked out for about a year. Talk to me about maybe what that might do if we are vaccinated eventually. As you said, everyone wants to get back to normal life, travel a big piece of that. So how do you see that going?
I think it's great. It's great to see the U.S. Move from being sort of the black sheep in the world and on the banned list from a lot of countries for travel to being one of the first to be let back in. I think up until now, they said that the EU was only accepting travel from some of these countries with low case counts like North Korea and New Zealand and Australia. So there's a tremendous amount of travel that goes on and a tremendous amount of exchange of goods and resources between our countries, between the EU and the United States. But also, across the world, we're all interconnected. So I think this vaccine nationalism that's sort of ramping up and this, isolationist attitude that we see in some areas of the country is not helpful. I do think we need to do this safely, but when they say the time is right and when they allow it, I will be happily booking my first trip back to Europe.
And also on that front, wanted to ask about vaccine mandates, potentially vaccine passports, because we have been seeing an increasing number of universities, especially in the US, requiring that students be vaccinated in order to return to campus in the fall. And I'm wondering if you see those kinds of requirements as being that ticket back to something resembling full normalcy.
Well, that's a really interesting question. Early on, we were all a little bit reticent to put out any sort of vaccine mandate. Remember that these vaccines were approved on an incredibly fast timetable. We have not in the past had a vaccine that was approved under emergency use authorization that then became a mandated vaccine that quickly. You can see where the danger comes in with mandating that someone receive a vaccine that's still, I guess, essentially experimental, though I hesitate to use that term because these vaccines are extremely safe and effective. However, I think that those universities are probably moving in the right direction. This may be something where it becomes a part of normal life. College students are required to get a meningitis vaccine because we know that students who are living in dormitories in close proximity are at very high risk for certain diseases, and coronavirus is one of those diseases. So I think this is a good move. It's just a matter of timing, but these mRNA vaccines in particular are just incredibly safe. They're really a miraculous, amazing development. And I do think that they're going to be required for quite a lot of things, perhaps sporting events and other things in the very near future.
Definitely encouraging to see the vaccine rollout ramp up here in the US. But thank you, Dr. Annalee Baker, emergency medicine physician.